Welcome to the Diverse Minds podcast, where we give you the tips, tools and techniques you need to be a mentally healthy and inclusive leader. Each week, you'll hear about a variety of topics linked to mental health, well-being and diversity that will enhance both your professional practice and personal well-being. Welcome to the third episode of the Diverse Minds podcast. And today we're talking all about Self-Care September. That's because September has actually been dubbed Self-Care September. With all the back-to-school feel that's going on, and I still operate in academic years, rushing around and summer over, it's important to start the autumn in the right way. By using the month of September to make self-care part of your daily routine. And it can be as simple as morning yoga, savouring your first hot drink of the day, or taking a different route to work and seeing something new. One way to look after yourself and build resilience is exercise. And I'm absolutely delighted to introduce my first guest to the Diverse Minds podcast. It's Versha Patel of Birth and Beyond Fitness. A woman who has me swinging kettlebells every week, and that's no easy feat. Versha Patel has created the perfect balanced fitness wellness classes and programs for women at various stages of their life. She specializes in pregnancy and new mums' bodies. Versha's life purpose is to transform new mums' bodies and minds, creating bodies that are strong from the inside out using a holistic approach. She includes that all-important mindset mentoring to build unbreakable confidence so new mums can have stronger self-beliefs, be more loving with themselves and, of course, those around them. She's living life with purpose to bring permanent change and a positive turning point in the legacy of women's lives. So I'm delighted to welcome Versha to the show.
Hi Layla. Thanks for having me today. And I'd love to tell you all about Birth and Beyond Fitness. So I created Birth and Beyond Fitness just over 6 years ago. And I created it so I wanted to create solutions I started out with expectant mums, and it's kind of just evolved from there. And so I went on to work with creating solutions for new mums and on their journey, and then doing more generic things for women, because I'm passionate about women's health and women looking after themselves and understanding the importance of keeping moving, doing movement earlier part of our life to give us longevity in our later life. So essentially, it's all about preparing for journeys. We have many journeys in our womanhood, and those journeys often start with becoming, wanting to conceive, becoming pregnant, and the journey thereafter, motherhood. And then if you don't have children, it's just a healthy body in womanhood, because we still go through the same hormonal cycles, whether we have children or not.
Yeah, it's really helpful, Versha, because you put some really interesting things on your social media, and the links will be in the show notes, everyone. So do check out her Facebook page. But recently you put a post up around babies, and it was a picture of a very beautiful baby. And it said, babies, they're so gorgeous and we love them. And they become the center of the universe when you become a mum or become a parent, but particularly with mothers. But actually, mums need to look after themselves. So what's your experience really in how, when women become mothers, how they do or don't look after themselves in terms of fitness?
So I find that women tend to put themselves last on the list, and it becomes exacerbated once you go into motherhood. So as humans generally, we are likely to do things more for others than we are for ourselves. So we tend to do all these wonderful things that people draw on, ask of us. Not everybody is like this, but generally, as a rule of thumb, most people want to do things for others first and tend to put themselves last, unless they're doing something for themselves which they know will benefit somebody else. And I think that's true of motherhood. But with new mums especially, they are often overwhelmed by the volume of things they need to do, learn. Everything's new, and they feel they have no time and are figuring things out. And it's their food choices, they feel tired. And there's this whole thing about comparing their body, their babies, everything, because they're in a vacuum, and they tend to feel some women can feel lost, and there's just so much all at once. Everything's new. And so doing something for themselves just feels a little too much, because babies really need them. And then there's this whole thing of all the baby things they want to do with them. So going to baby sensory is a really big thing, and doing all these things, because it's like a little bit of, I don't dare I say it, FOMO, because they don't want, there's that fear of their child missing out, that they were going to miss out on not experiencing these things that are culturally becoming ingrained into new mum's journey. How have you done this? Have you done that? And sometimes, babies really, sensory is great and massage is great. All these things are fantastic, but it's actually how much are you then taking time out for you as well? If you're doing all of this for your child, it kind of then can carry into your way of parenting as the child grows, and you have very many extracurricular activities that your children are always doing, and that in itself is quite stressful and creates anxiety, because you're running around. You may go back to work or you may not, and then you've got to pick up children, get them fed, take them to a club or something or another, get them home, bath them, bed, read a book, and all these things that we have structurally put into our culture, that it places a huge amount of pressure on parents, and it generally falls on the mother. Not always, but generally it does. And it just leaves so little wiggle room for mums to think about themselves, because it's all about our gorgeous children achieving and doing amazing things in their life. But we give them all this amazing food, but what do we eat? What are we doing? Get them to do all this sport. What are you doing? So yeah, and I don't want to go on a rant about it, but I obviously have just gone on a rant about it.
No, it's really helpful. It's really helpful. So given what you've just said, then what was the deciding factor for you starting Birth and Beyond Fitness? What was the crunch point? Because I know you worked in marketing before. What made you decide, right, this is my life's purpose and this is what I'm going to do?
I remember walking with my little girl. She was only tiny. She was still probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months or something. And I was on the phone with one of my good friends from up north, and from one of my friends I grew up with, and we were just talking about changing career and whether I want to go back to corporate, which I did, but I was thinking about alternatives, and she just said, I really think you just suit so well in health. And I was like, really? I have no idea anything about health. I had no idea about cooking. I didn't learn to cook until I was, closer to 30. It was only when I decided I was having a baby that I thought, oh, I better learn to cook. So I think that was, somebody gave me a very close, dear friend, probably planted the seed. Then I went from there. I didn't think I would go into postnatal, prenatal, or women's health, really. I just went with it, and then I worked in a gym and did some time there, and I disliked it hugely. But they also said, "Oh, I really do think you could do really well in the pre and postnatal," and I was like, "Yeah, no," I dismissed it. And then I decided after that I was just never going into fitness, because I hated the gym environment as a working place for me personally, on a personal level. And then I had my second child, which I'd wanted for so long, and he took so long to arrive with us. And when he finally did, my body, I went through quite a few things with my first, and those experiences, bringing them into my second, I really realised that there's a population that is so underserved, and I felt quite underserved, and I didn't actually really recognise that when I was in my first motherhood journey. It was only when I went into my second that I realised that there's stuff that I know that a lot of women don't, and then I got myself educated. I did some basic education, and I realised actually I didn't know very much, and those basic educations didn't even scratch the surface. So I started my business, and then I actually stopped it to then just go and spend a whole load of money getting every piece of education I could get my hands on to understand the biomechanics of the human body. And then I did it in reverse. I was a gym instructor, did my postnatal, prenatal. And then I thought, no, I'm going to become a personal trainer, because it just means you go so much deeper. And it was for me, because I wanted to prove to myself that I had it in me to do and understand the anatomy at the greater depth, which terrified me, because every name of the bone and muscle is all in Latin, and it feels like a real another language. But because I had a reason to learn, and I was passionate, I'm passionate, it made it so different that I wanted to learn all of this and really bring this knowledge and information so that I could work with women at such a deeper level and serve women the way they deserve to be served, with love and compassion. And that's where I came from. Everything started from there, really. And it wasn't easy. Convincing women in their pregnancy to exercise was really hard work. It's less hard work now for some reason, but when I started, it was really hard. So 6 years ago feels like an eternity ago, and there seems to have been a lot of education going since then to now, that so many more women want to do things, exercise, but there's still a whole load of women that don't. Convincing them, yeah, you're okay to do this, come and do it, and how it will change, and your experience of your pregnancy, your birthing experience, and actually how you will heal, and how to look after your fundamental pelvic floor, and those deep core muscles. So that's where I know it's a really long answer to the question you asked, but it's, I think when you start something with passion, you persevere relentlessly against all kind of barriers you may come across. And I don't regret it one bit. I love the women I serve, and I'm evolving my business every day to feel like I want to make sure that I'm serving women even deeper and creating solutions that actually meet and solve problems, rather than I'm just helping and playing around the edges.
Do you know, Versha, I didn't know all of that, because for me, you're the kind of person, if anyone meets you, it's like you were born to be a fitness guru expert. And for you to tell me that you didn't really properly learn how to cook till you were 30 really shocks me, because of your knowledge around nutrition. And I think the other beautiful thing about your story is the fact that friends and people that are very close to us can often shine a light on our talents, and how that happened for you, because I really thought that actually you were, fitness was something very important to you from when you were a teenager. So that's really insightful for me to hear that.
Oh yeah, but don't get me wrong. I did it a little, when I was like younger. But at school, then you lose your way sometimes, don't you? I was, cross country queen, but then a netball. But then went to high school and I didn't do anything.
Yeah, because of that whole thing about being cool. And that's another thing that really impacts women, isn't it? Young women, around being cool. I've been reading articles about, young girls don't want to sweat because of the smell. And that's really tied up into some interesting things for me. So again, it's changing those mindsets, isn't it? But you've mentioned some of the things around barriers to exercise after people have a baby, or even indeed when they're pregnant. So you mentioned it's changed slightly, and I wonder whether some of that celebrity culture in a positive way. Obviously, people go through serious physical changes. If they've had a difficult birth, that's going to be a challenge. But what are the other barriers to exercise after people have a baby?
I think we touched on some of it to do with the overwhelm of having a child, because babies don't come with a handbook.
If only they did.
I know. Well, there are lots of handbooks out there, but which one do you buy? How many can you read?
Yeah.
And life experience is what brings actually confidence in motherhood. And it depends on your child too, because some children, dare I say, I met a client yesterday, her child sleeps through and she daren't tell her friends, because none of her friends' children sleep through or don't play open. And so there is that. There is the thing of a child that needs us. And sometimes we want to feel needed as well. So it's making that distinction. Are you making them want you need you? Or is it just the way it is? And accepting if their child is a little bit needy, but letting them just sometimes work things out. So you're not always holding them. But I think, and I see this a lot, that mums just, and I did it too. So I'm not judging. A child cries, you have this instinct, innate that you want to pick them up, but they learn a behaviour then that they expect that. So then when you want to go and do something, it's very, very hard to do that. So I think it's that mindset from the outset that I'm going to look after myself, and I'm doing it not just for myself, but for my family, my children, and I want to be a role model from the outset, because it's much, much harder to try and create that habit a little bit further down the line. It's not impossible, but the neurological pathway is easier. It's there's the least line of resistance if you start from the outset, because you are not unlearning a behavior then. So you create a behaviour that is all about serving your children and your needs of everybody else apart from your own. That becomes a very, very deep ingrained behaviour that then you have to unpick and unlearn later in life, because there is no way you can carry on like that. And some women don't wait, they wait till menopause, and their children have either grown up or they have a bit of breathing space, wherever, depending when you had your children. But it's often at menopause, they look down at their body and they think, oh no, I need to do something about this now. And they're faced with a whole host of other things as well, which is, the hormonal change, osteoporosis possible, a core that's shot to pieces, pelvic floor. You could be even looking at continuous incontinence or looking at a prolapse. And if we just rewind 10 years or even 15 and have started something much sooner, gradual, you wouldn't be facing that mountain when you're hitting in your 50s. So that they are the things I would say women struggle with, but I would urge women to try and see things in the long term and think, okay, well, actually, I know it feels hard, but if I start like this now, it won't be so hard, and you take really small baby steps.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think that's the thing, isn't it, about mindset? And it links with, I've been doing a course on work-life balance recently, and one of the modules is about assertiveness. And I always say, I think it's much easier to be assertive or practice the techniques in the workplace and the family place because of what you've just talked about and the guilt that often people feel when they take time for themselves. So that's still, I think, a journey due to socialization that women experience more than men. So in your view then, how can and does exercise support mental health and well-being? Because you've talked, obviously we know the physical benefits, but for you personally and with the women that you work with, how have you seen exercise supporting mental health and well-being?
Oh, from first-hand experience myself.
Yeah.
I'm rather hot-headed and less so now, but definitely in my early years. And dealing with children that are not, should I say, textbook children. And I found that exercise helped me that was how it started, to be honest, for me. I had certain issues in my body that I wanted to address, but the mental state it put me in to be able to handle children that are, one child particularly, not both of them, that was a little bit more challenging than my first. My first child wasn't so challenging. She was fairly straightforward, but my second, he's amazing, but he's not textbook, and he's just presents with things that always make me think, like, this is very interesting. But I didn't have that perspective when he was younger. It just sent me crazy. So exercise was my way, like how I could just compose myself in how can I manage and help serve this child at my best. And I'm using these words now. I didn't use those words then.
It's good that you're being honest about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we all evolve, right?
Yeah.
We're all best, it's about creating the best versions of ourselves every day, how we can be good for ourselves, good for others. And it's that ripple effect of being the best version of ourselves, of how we transfer our energy to our children, to our peers, to our family, and how that ripples and affects others, and how they can also want to be the best versions of themselves. And my children want to be their best versions of themselves because they can see the work I'm doing to be my best version of myself. And they've seen me evolve. They've seen me at a point when I've yelled and at a point that I don't, and the work I've done. And so they can see that I see the importance of my self-care, that it's about how I then can serve them so much deeper and better and happier from a happy place, so they can be happy, and how they can do the same, and how they can transfer that beautiful energy to their friends and their life, and now and in the future. So I see it all as a ripple. And it can be either negative or a positive. You can live in anger and frustration and depression, and that energy ripples and filters into the world and our universe. Or you can try and start every day and think, how can I be the best version of myself, so my energy is great for everybody around me, and how it can change the world we live in, and have less of this anxiety and comparing and negative and judgment. We do. I judge all the time. It's whether you act on it.
Yeah. And that's part of being human, isn't it? Judging. I mean, we do judge. Yeah. But yeah, it's how we manage that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So coming back to the mental health part of it, I mean, I've spoken about, so that's how I started. And there's robust research now clearly stating the relationship between exercise and mental health and well-being. And it's, it just one goes with the other. And it's a break from damaging self-talk, if anything. If people don't realize how important it is and can't make the connection, if anything, doing exercise is a way of just stopping that negative talk, because you just go into movement and you're like, I can do this.
And you don't think about anything else, do you? Because you need to get the movement done, and you're pushing yourself, and you're kind of coming out of your barriers. And yeah, definitely.
And it's transferable into real life, about your real life challenges.
Yeah, it builds strength physically, but mentally, doesn't it? When you're doing things that push you out of your comfort zone.
And it does the same for postnatal depression. Sorry to interrupt you there, Layla, but yeah, just to bring it to new mums, and whether new mums or mums, whether you're new or, it doesn't make a difference. It's just women experience low points, and we don't talk about it enough. And doing physical exercise really makes a difference. Women go through huge hormonal changes after having a baby, and that can either be a very short-lived experience or an extended one. And it just varies from woman to woman. And but movement, postnatal depression, they can really help. It can really make a difference.
Yeah, because actually, as you said, exercise has shown to reduce anxiety and depression for a majority of people, low levels of anxiety and depression, more effectively than any medication. So you're absolutely spot on, Versha. And it's making sure that people have the support so that they can go and do that exercise, so that they can then start to feel better if that's an option they want to go down. Yeah, absolutely. So what are your top 3 tips then for people who may be new to exercise or getting back on the wagon? What should they do? How would what are your tips for encouraging people to start to exercise again, or start to exercise full stop?
I would say my 3 top tips are to don't overthink it, just start. That's the first point. 1 foot forward and just think, right, I'm going to do it. It's making the decision to do it.
Yeah.
Start gentle, number 2. So something that's achievable. Always make it achievable. Don't start, right, I'm going to go and do a 5-kilometer run. You can set that as like maybe a goal, like in the next, I wouldn't advise this, sorry for new mums. So, because having a baby and then going to do a 5-kilometer run is probably not like the first thing you should be doing.
Yep.
So I'm talking more generally to a wider audience here, but so picking something that's achievable. So that might be I'm going to start with maybe stretches and walking and fast walking. So you lampposts or trees. So you can use, I'm going to walk from this tree to that tree, and then I'm going to fast walk to the next tree, and those sorts of things. And I'm going to do that for 10 minutes and add 2 minutes every day.
That's lovely, actually. That's a really lovely way to do it, because it also means you're outside, you're looking up, you're looking at the trees, you're not putting pressure on yourself.
Yeah, and it's better to be where there's green, because that the thing of being in nature helps you. Don't feel like, but if you haven't, it doesn't matter. Just being outside, really important. Try and get off and away from the roads if you can, but it doesn't matter if not. You just, whatever environment you're in. And so number 3 would be, I'd set small fitness goals. So I did mention maybe a 5-kilometer run or something, but something again that's achievable, but it's a fitness goal, and that you can keep seeing that you're clearly getting closer and closer to hitting, because that boosts your confidence and your abilities. So it's very similar to number 2, but 2 is starting it and starting gentle, and then having the goal that I'm going to do, right, by the end of my first week, I'm going to have done 20 minutes of interval walking and fast walking. And then by second week, I'm going to do fast walking with light jogs. And maybe you'll take that back down to 10 minutes and then working it up to 20. And so it's creating achievable, you might spread it longer if you don't feel, if that's too much for you. You might say week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then by week 4 you can see that you've gradually progressed, and then in that you've created some fitness goals, but also working on your self-talk throughout that time. Because actually, something that I'll take from Anthony Robbins, while you're moving, you can't it's impossible to have negative self-talk. You can't feel in a rubbish state when you are moving. And you just don't. You are moving and you're feeling good. There's too many things going on in your body to wind you into that kind of negative self-talk. So I'm keeping it 3 things, but when you are doing these things, appreciate that what's being said in your mind. What is the self-talk? What's the internal dialogue saying to you?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And often that's what puts people off, isn't it? It's like, I won't be able to do it. I know with me in the past, it's been like, well, I'm not even going to attempt a 5K because I'll be out of breath at 0.5K and I'll just walk it. So that's a really, really important one. So Versha, how do you help clients with this then? So talk us through some of the things you offer your clients and what you do to help new mums, existing mums. Yeah. What kinds of things do you do? Because I know you run a Buggy Fit class.
Yeah, well, I'm not doing the Buggy Fit class at the moment, and I have gone down the route of serving women a little deeper. So the weather did put me off a little bit this year because it was so up and down. It was either too hot or too wet, and it just in itself, and I think this is from a self-care point of view, it did cause a huge amount of anxiety and stress for me. And I just decided that I don't need to do that anymore because it did cause a lot for me. And I chose, because it is my own business, I can pick and choose what direction I want to take my business and how I want to serve women. Who am I to look at the rest of the population that are doing something similar to me and have to do what they're doing? And so I took a stance this year. It was 10 years this year that I left corporate, and I had a huge operation. Well, not huge, but I had appendix removed at the end of
Yeah, it
last
was
year.
pretty significant, Versha. Yeah, pretty significant. Yeah.
And I think all those things, going through that and realizing these things and having time out, forced to have time out, made me make some decisions that I'm really, really pleased. I really believe in journeys for a reason, and that journey happened for a reason. And I had time on my lying down and having to be slower and patient with myself. And I realized that I really love and believe in everything I do, and I want to take that to serve women at a deeper level than I already am. So that's why I'm not doing that. Sorry, that's just a side point. But and so helping clients get back to exercise. The approach I take is when I talk about if there are barriers already in place, I can see it with a client. They often are less so because they don't come to you unless they're ready in a way anyway. But there still is, they've got this thing about their body they're not happy with, or how they're feeling in their body. And so I do mind work. So the first thing I tend to do is it's like doing breathing exercises, and also then helping them understand that a reason why you're going to exercise. It's not just about the appearance of your body, but actually, and horses for courses, so it depends on the client. But I talk about mental flexibility and how we can access parts of our brain. When you're a new mom, you don't always easily access all the information we know. We're all guilty of this. We've all consumed books or watched something, and it's somewhere in there in the brain, but we've forgotten it. We haven't accessed it. We haven't created a distinction, so we've got a hard wire to it to access that information in a quick beck and call. We forget information. So exercise creates mental flexibility of being able to access information that we'd forgotten we knew. And this is all to do with the hippocampus, and so the exercising creates new hippocampal neurons, so that you have this mental flexibility. So helping women understand it's not all about your body looking a particular way, because yes, social media and celebrities have helped in some ways. Women want to take care of themselves, and more women are coming to pregnancy classes and things like that. But it's serving from a point of view of it's not all about what you look like, though. Yes, that's great, and we want to look and feel amazing, but understanding and drawing on the psychology and the mental health of it. And that's where, I did that at university. I did psychology, and I love that I can bring the psychology and the mental health part of things I loved and learned in my life into what I do now, and how that actually helps serve women much more deeper. If you have a reason to exercise and do something, anything in your life, if you've got a big enough reason, you will do it. So if you understand, information that you haven't drawn on that will help you, and that I'm going to teach you how to use your mental, all of that, and help your brain. That's one reason. So starting with those things, and anything that's in there that's bothering them in their body, it's another reason why. So that's starting with your reasons why, breathing, and then talking about if they don't do it, they stay stuck, and then giving them the long-term view of that. So the menopause view, and so again, that draws on the reason why. If you don't do this, this is possibly where it'll end up if you don't do this. And then what we talked about, setting the goals, so mini achievable goals, and getting clients to think about their food, because actually food massively influences brain fog or clarity. So what you eat is what you are, essentially. And that's where I would start always.
Brilliant. And I think that's such a holistic approach. And it really means that you're not doing one size fits all. You're doing a very bespoke and personal program, which is, I think a reason we love coming to your classes, and I love being part of what you do. So then going back to you and thinking about Self-Care September, how will you be practicing Self-Care September?
So my husband and I, we talked about this actually a couple of weeks ago, I think. Yeah. And he just loves eating crisps.
I'm guilty of that as well.
He's really bad. I measure, you see. I'll I'll measure a cup and I'll say, right,
that's very good.
And that's all I'm going to eat.
I can't do that. Oh.
And he's like, he just has the bag with him. I'm like, seriously, there's something wrong with you.
I prefer crisps to chocolate, I have to say. Sorry. So sorry, you said.
Well, don't worry, it's fine. So we said for September, and I have to be really honest here, Layla, I've not heard of Self-Care September until we talked about it for this. So I love it. And we, even before reading your questions and things, we'd already said, September, no snacks, no crisps, get the holiday season out of the way, the children go back to school. We are planning a romantic weekend away, the two of us, but we'll manage.
Nice.
Yeah,
good for you.
I'm sure we'll manage without the snacks. We'll be too busy walking and sightseeing. But yeah, that's what we're doing. I train every day. I don't generally at the weekend. So one of the other things I really, really wanted to do is just get walking more on a Sunday and taking the children for long walks. I just feel like I just move so much through the week that by the weekend, I'm all moved out, if you like.
Yeah, so you want to do something more mindful and reflective.
Yeah, but I need to change. I want to, if I'm walking, it's mindful, and it's that thing of teaching my children, our family, that actually this is a really good way of passing time rather than some of the things we get consumed in. I'm from an Asian culture, so family is really, really big in our family gatherings. It's very, very big in our culture, and so it's navigating that in amongst all the stuff I would like to do that is far-reaching and extending to my teaching my family about self-care. And so that's what I'm planning to tackle in September. So wish me luck, because eating no crisps is not a problem. I have no issue with that. I think getting my children to want to do a long walk around countryside is going to be the tricky one.
And I'm sure you'll do it if anyone can do it, Versha. It's you. But yeah, brilliant plans for Self-Care September. And if people want to know more about your work, we're going to put your social media links in the show notes. But how should people contact you? I know that you were doing some really great videos just before summer. Anything you want to tell listeners about if they want to work with you, what they should do?
So you can get in touch with me on Instagram, and I am found at Birth and Beyond Fitness Official, or Facebook. My page is Birth and Beyond Fitness, or you can go to my website, which is www.birthandbeyond-fitness.co.uk. Yeah, those are the main channels, really. You can contact me and reach out. I've got lots of things going on, and I'm online. So it's not that I do pregnancy classes in Leicester, live classes to help women connect, but I also now do a new mum program that serves women at a much deeper level and solves problems. And that is online with complete hand-holding and accountability, and a way of helping women carve out time, navigating all those things we've talked about, but carving out time for yourself. So I'll show you the ways to do that. So thank you, Layla.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being on the show. So everyone, there you have it. Self-Care September from a fitness expert. To find out more about Versha's work, check the show notes for her links. It's Birth and Beyond Fitness. You can find her on Facebook and Instagram, and also she's got a website. Have a look at the Self-Care calendar, the Self-Care September calendar on Action for Happiness website. And don't forget, you can also go on the waiting list for my work-life balance course, so the Mentally Healthy Leader. And remember, the kindness we show towards ourselves will manifest into a kinder world. Let us know what you're up to this September by using the following hashtags when posting on your social media accounts. Hashtag Self-Care Awareness Month, hashtag Self-Love, hashtag Self-Care Challenge, hashtag Evolve to Live. And I really look forward, listeners, to hearing what you're going to be doing. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Diverse Minds podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your podcasts from. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Tune into next week's episode of the podcast, where I'll bring you more insights on mental health and inclusion. Bye for now.